Hello there, I'm Vieno and this is my 7th video tutorial on D3. In this video we're going to take a step back and revisit the actual data binding that we've been doing in the last couple of videos. So as you may recall, so far we've used the data method and the enter method to add elements for each data element that we have. So we've been adding DOM elements, that is a circle or a rectangle or whatever, for each element in our data set. So, but when you think about it, that's actually only one of 3 possibilities here as far as the relationship between DOM elements and data elements are concerned. So let's formalize this a bit. So far we've had fewer DOM elements than data elements. So since we've been selecting something that does not exist, we end up with an empty selection, but we've had some data. So that is one of the possibilities. And the other possibility is that we have more DOM elements than data elements. So let's say we already had a number of rectangles or circles, but we had fewer data elements than the number of circles or rectangles or whatever. That's also a logical possibility, right? And the final possibility is that the number of DOM elements correspond exactly to the number of data elements. And each of these possibilities actually have a name in D3. Well, the resulting selection have a name. So in this case, which is the one we looked at so far, we end up with the enter selection, which contains placeholders for each data element that does not have a corresponding DOM element. The opposite possibility, where we have more DOM elements than data elements, is called the exit selection, and this selection contains each DOM element that does not have a corresponding data element. So we just switch around the relationships here. And the final possibility is, contains the update selection, and in this case we have a number of DOM elements and we have the exact same number of data elements. So let's take a look at what these actually mean. Let's start by creating a canvas. So D3 select body and append SVG and give it some attributes: a width 500, a height 500, and we need some data. Let's create data variable and we can just pop in 10 there for now. So far we've been using the enter selection, right? So what we've been doing is this circle, bar circle or something like that, and we've been selecting everything of something that does not exist. So we bind this empty selection to our data, and then we use the enter method and we append, let's say, a circle for each data element. So let's see, attribute cx 50 and cy, give it 50 as well, and let's give it a radius of 25. So let's save and refresh. Oops, I kind of showed you what I was gonna do there, but never mind. So we have this that circle. So that's a result of having more data elements than existing circles. So the enter selection contains all the data elements that has not been bound to any existing circles. But what would happen if we actually had a existing an existing circle already on the page. Let's call this circles and this circle, and just manually add a circle on our web page. We can just copy this, and now we're actually adding. We're adding a circle manually. This is not based on data. What happens if we refresh now? You can see that we only have one circle still, even though we added a new circle here. And why is that? Well, that's because since we already have a circle on our web page, when we bind our data to this selection is no longer empty. This selection contains all the circles on our web page, which in this case is 1. So this data is bound to an existing circle, which means that there are no placeholders for data elements that have no corresponding DOM elements, since that is what the enter selection does, right? So in this case, well, let's try and add a new circle, a new data element here in our data set. Let's refresh the web page, and you can see now we actually get 2 circles. The first one is this that we add manually, and the second one is this one. So what's going on here is that we have a circle already, and we bind that circle to our data. But since we have more data elements than DOM elements, we only have one circle. This data binding only applies to one of the data elements. The other one, this one, 20, ends up in the enter selection, which contains placeholders for all the data elements that do not have corresponding DOM elements. So we could actually give these a fill to see the difference. So the enter selection will be green, and here we can give all the data elements, all the data elements that have been successfully bound to existing DOM elements. And this is called the update selection, when you already have DOM elements in this select all selection. So let's give this the color red, and save, and you can see that they are different colors now. So the red one represents the update selection, this one here. You can see that it's further down the page than the enter selection. The enter selection is represented by the green circle, this one right here. So if we had the exact same number of circles or DOM elements on the page as we have data elements, let's say, let's call this circle 1 and this circle 2, and let's give them some space, and let's save and refresh. We can see that both are red, since they both belong to the update selection, and the enter selection once again is empty, since there are no data elements that has not been successfully bound to existing DOM elements. So let's take a look at the final possibility, or the third type of selection, which is the exit selection. So let's see here, we have blah 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 blah. So as you may remember, the update selection comes into play when we have fewer data elements than DOM elements, or put it another way, when we have more DOM elements than data. So in this case, let's try something like this. as you probably can understand by now, what's going on so far is that we're binding all the DOM elements. Wait, how can I put this? We are binding our data to our selection here, and our selection here contains two existing DOM elements, these two circles, but we only have one data element. So if we do something to this, let's give it a fill green, fill green, and save. You can see that it only applies to one of the circles, as expected. But how do we target this other circle? As you can see, in this case, we have a circle for which there are no corresponding data. The enter selection works the other way when we have more data than DOM elements. In this case, we can actually use the exit method, which returns the exit selection. And let's do something with the exit selection. Let's give it the color blue. Save and refresh, and you can see that the second circle turned blue since it belongs to the exit selection. Now this is all a bit messy and confusing, I know, in the beginning, but it's actually quite simple. As we discussed in the beginning of this video, we have three options. We have the option where the number of data elements correspond exactly to the number of DOM elements, and where we can have more data elements than DOM elements and more DOM elements than data elements. And we have three different selections to target these alternatives.